All right, this is a one-speaker meeting. To help us, please welcome our speaker tonight, Karen G.
Hi, everybody. I'm Karen Garrison. I'm an alcoholic. And it's truly through the grace of God and the power of Alcoholics Anonymous that I've been sober since May 30th, 1982, and that does not make me a miracle. Alcoholics Anonymous is a miracle. And if you're new here tonight, I want to welcome you to AA, and I always call it God's magnificent AA, the program that saved my life, and it's going to save yours too, if you want to take a few quick actions. And I suggest strongly you get a sponsor, that you get that book, Alcoholics Anonymous, and you get busy, and everybody else is doing around here, and you're going to stay sober, as I've stayed sober for 27 years, and people like me cannot stay sober, I can guarantee you. My home group is the Pacific Group in West LA, a group I'm very, very proud to be a member of, just as I'm sure you're proud to be a member of yours. And I guess if you're not proud, you ought to get a job, and you might change your mind. I certainly have a job in mind. I'm proud to have that job. You know, speaking of jobs, you guys, you know, I'm really not a senior citizen. I'm only 33 years old, but let me tell you what happened. What happened was this. I was secretary last year at the biggest group in the world, and it aged me 39 and a half years is what happened. But anyway, Michelle, thank you so much for inviting me. This is an honor and a privilege. It's one that I do not take lightly, I'll guarantee you. You guys, I love Alcoholics Anonymous, I really do. And I think that it shows, and I make an awful lot of mistakes, doing an awful lot of things wrong. But I'll tell you one thing, that I love you, make no mistake about that. You know, I've been taught to do an awful lot of things before I ever wrote my big mouth. And one thing is to talk to my sponsor. And Clancy sends you love and very best wishes. And if anybody in this room is wondering why I have a man for a sponsor and why I have Clancy for a sponsor, it's really quite simple. I did not get sober in California. I got sober in a place called Lincoln, Nebraska, and was not doing Alcoholics Anonymous in Nebraska. I went through 19 sponsors at a rapid clip, and I'm certainly not proud of it as I stand here tonight. And thank God for the old-timers in AA, because somebody loved me enough to get my current sponsor. And I can tell you that my life has done nothing but totally complete turn as a result of that. And I absolutely adore the ground that man walks on. I talked to him this morning, almost every single day of my life, and he said, well, get up there and share your experience, your strength, and your hope, and tell those people what it was like, what happened, what it's like now. Ignore the old-timers. They got it. They don't need your inspiration, my dear. And talk directly to those new people, the life and blood of AA. And I believe that as I stand here, and I welcome you, and I hope that you stay. And then I think I did, without a doubt, the most important thing I can ever do. And that's to say, God, please help me say what you want me to say to these people. God is very much a part of my life now, you guys. It's nice to be that for me, I can guarantee you. I come from an alcoholic hell. I can describe it was so bad. And, you know, my life is real good today, and sometimes I forget how bad it was. And I can tell you the day I got sober, I weighed 95 pounds. I was the color of squash, had an alcoholic hepatitis, had a liver cirrhosis, I had ruptured esophageal varices, and who's touching my leg? Dave, you couldn't handle me, baby. Anyway, I had ruptured esophageal varices, and if you don't know what that stuff is, you don't want to, because you die from that kind of stuff. And I was standing on Skid Row in Lincoln, Nebraska, sucking on a bottle of Mad Dog. And if you guys haven't drank Mad Dog, I need to tell you it's not one of your finer wines, I can assure you. I'll guarantee you one thing, that crap has never seen a grape, make no mistake about that. And I literally could not believe what's going on in my life. I'd lost my children. I'd lost my husband twice. Although I don't really care about that, I want you to know. I'd lost my car. I'd lost my house. I destroyed every relationship I'd ever had with anybody. And I was clearly dying from alcoholism. Then I lost the one thing that brought me my knees and disease. I lost my nursing license. And you guys, I love my profession. Absolutely devastated me, did not stop me from drinking. And there's a reason for that, and it's in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, because I have an obsession that somehow, someday, I'll learn to control and enjoy my drinking. Their persistent illusion is astonishing. Just our book talks about Mira's pursuit in the gates of insanity and death. And I'll guarantee you one thing. I was in the gates of pure insanity. I got someone almost into my coffin. And I am so grateful, Alcoholics Anonymous, as I stand here tonight, I cannot begin to tell you. And you're going to soon see why and stuff. But like I said earlier, my sobriety date is May 30th, 1982. It was not always my sobriety date. When I got my current sponsor, I had to change that date. And there's a reason for that. I'm one of these people who had to go and smoke dope when I got sober. And you know, if you're smoking marijuana in this room now, you're not sober now, Alcoholics Anonymous, I'll tell you right this minute. And I don't want to argue about it afterwards. Ask any old-timer if you don't believe me. And if I have to change my date, then by God, so do you. But yeah, I got I got my current sponsor, and I tried to explain to him that where I'm from in Nebraska, you can have 2 sobriety dates, one from alcohol, one from drugs. He rather quickly pointed out to me that I was in Southern California. We have one date here to get my date changed. And I was just smart aleck when I got my current sponsor, and I said, where does the book mention pot? He said, the book does mention pot. And I said, Clancy, I have read that book. It's not talk about marijuana in that book. He said, if I find the word pot in that book, you change the sobriety, never argue with me again. And I knew I was making a bad deal, you guys, but I did it anyway. And I'll be damned if he didn't flip open the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. On the first page of Bill Wilson's story, it says, died by musket or by pot. I said, that is not what that means. He said, quite frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn what it means. You said the book didn't mention pot. It does mention pot. Change your sobriety date or find yourself a different sponsor, one or the other. It also mentions people who are constitutionally incapable and honest themselves. Are you one of those people? No. Then shut up and change your sobriety date. But anyway, I'm just delighted to be here tonight. Michelle, thank you so much. And I'm also delighted to have a glass for me. You can see your speaker. I had this terrible experience on the East Coast. I was out there giving a talk, and my skirt fell off in front of 3,000 people. And they had this glass plum. You can actually see the speaker, and that makes me nervous anyway. And I had this black suit with this wraparound skirt, and the button came, and I thought, my God, my skirt's going to fall on the floor. And it was too late. It was on the floor. But you guys, you know what? Alcoholics Anonymous has taught me to wear underwear, and thank God I had some on. It's also taught me to take action. I just picked up that skirt and kept right on talking. What else are you going to do? But you know, I grew up in Lincoln, Nebraska. I come from a wonderful home there in Nebraska, and I want you to know that, and my mother wants you to know it too, I'll guarantee you that. You know, my mom died 15 years ago, and God, I miss her so much I can't begin to tell you guys. And boy, you only get one, folks, and when they're gone, they're gone. And I made amends to her many, many years ago. We had a wonderful relationship, last years of life and stuff, but I just missed her terribly. And I could tell you guys a funny story. Not that my mom died, of course. I was back in Nebraska last August to visit my kids and my grandkids and stuff, and I told my eldest son, I'm going to go to Grandma's grave and put some flowers down. Where's your other grandmother buried? I was not there for my ex-mother-in-law's funeral. And he said, well, Mom, just mark off 15 rows from Grandma's grave. There's Grandma Lynn's grave. And I said, okay. Little bitty tiny graveyard. It was overcast in Nebraska. It had been raining all day. I told him I'd speak at the Olano Club at 5:30. It was already 10 after 5. I really need to move right along here. So I put the flowers on my mom's grave. I marked off 15 rows. There's my ex-mother-in-law's grave. I put the flowers down, and I backed up, and I found myself in an 8-foot grave, you guys, and I could not get out of that damn thing. Let me tell you something, folks. When you're in it, you're not getting out of it. Trust me. And I thought, how in the hell did this happen to me? Well, apparently the grave diggers in Nebraska opened the grave the day before, and they put a tarp up and a caution sign, a thing to hold the casket. It's basically impossible to fall in the grave. And they thought, well, nobody's out here. It's been raining all day. Nobody's going to come out here. Let's go to dinner, and we'll come back and do it later. And I come walking over, and I thought, how am I going to get out of this grave? I don't wish to explain to my sponsor how I missed the meeting at 5:30 while I was standing in an 8-foot grave, I got to tell you. But anyway, what do? You start screaming, help is what you're doing. About 10 minutes later, this old lady walked over the grave. She's old, but I'm not, right? And she says to me, I don't think you're supposed to be in there. And I thought, stupid woman. I didn't say that, though. I knew that one in my pocket that particular time. And I said, have you got a phone on you by any chance? She says, you know, I don't. And I said, go up to the office and tell them to bring a ladder, call the fire department. They got to do to get me out of this grave. But tell them not to run the sirens. Nobody's hurt or anything. And here they come, you guys. 6 Lincoln, Nebraska fire trucks, their sirens going. 3 Lincoln, Nebraska police cars with their sirens going. And reporters of all damn things. And I said, don't you dare put my name in the paper. And they said, we have to report the fire call and put your name in the paper. And I said, you better see that you don't. There it was Monday morning. California woman falls in an 8-foot grave. Karen, I can't believe they did that. But you never know what's going to happen now, like Thomas. But I'll have all you old-timers know. I made it to my meeting at 5:29 p.m. I was there. And the people said to me, Karen, why do you have muddle over you? I said, you don't even want to know, trust me. But anyway, I come from an alcoholic home, and I don't think that's neither here nor there. I don't do well with people that stand at AA podiums and blame anybody for anything. And my father died from this disease on the streets of Chicago in 1979. And you tell me how a major in the Air Force dies on Skid Row. I don't know how that happened, other than the fact that he was an alcoholic. And whether he ever found AA or not, I do not know. I just know that he certainly did not stay sober as a result of it. So one more time tonight, this is a cunning, baffling, powerful disease that kills people. This is not a game I'm playing up here. This is serious business. And I would give any in the world if my father were alive tonight, because we would have a lot to talk about, I can tell you. I have a sister who is Miss Rah-Rah in high school and homecoming queen and cheerleading and all that kind of stuff, and made straight A's, never cracked a book, and I made straight F's, never cracked a book, and that was the difference. My sister was a beautiful little girl. She's a gorgeous woman today. She looks nothing like I do, I got to tell you. And she was a model for many, many years for Neiman Marcus in Dallas, and now she's retired and teaches school in the West Indies. And I got to tell you guys, as a direct result of this program, I love my sister very much tonight, and I found out something about her. She's also very beautiful on the inside, too, and I never used to know that. I have a brother who was a fighter pilot in the Navy for many, many years. My brother retired about 9 years ago, and during 9/11, Iraq and so forth, he's been called back in the service. And, you know, my brother is really old to be a fighter pilot, you guys. He's 55 years old, and we were growing up. I thought he was such a dork, I can't begin to tell you. Straight as an arrow Mike, doesn't drink, doesn't use drugs, doesn't screw around. He was an embarrassment to you, know the truth. But tonight, I'm so proud of that man, I cannot begin to tell you. You wouldn't catch me over Iraq in any fighter plane, but neither one of these people are alcoholic. And I have another sister who's married the public defender in Lincoln, Nebraska, who got me out of a whole bunch of trouble when I got sober, and I'm welcome in their homes than I never used to be. I come from basically a very boring family, if you know the truth. They're high accessible people, and they bore me to tears. I love them, but they bore me to tears. And I have a couple kids who are 47 and 48 years old, and I know I certainly don't look old enough to have kids that age, but by God, I sure do. And this is where it really starts getting interesting for me. These kids are anything but boring, I got to tell you guys. As a matter of fact, they're a couple of jerks, to know the truth, but those couple of jerks have given me 5 of the most gorgeous grandbabies you have ever seen before in your life, and those grandbabies have never seen their grandmother drink, and I hope to God they never do. So things with my family are very, very good tonight. It's only a direct result of Alcoholics Anonymous, I can assure you, and it took a long time for it to happen. And in my case, that's a good thing. But you know, I grew up, I was a disruptive jerk when I was growing up in Nebraska, always getting kicked out of classrooms. I hated discipline. I was very, very rebellious. I really hated people telling me what to do. And I like it even less today, if you know the truth. And I never felt like I belonged anywhere. And I heard that a lot from AA podiums, and I'm right on with that 125%, I got to tell you. You know, I really don't remember my first drink, you guys, but I can tell you that I hope to God I never forget my last one. And I hope it was my last one. Remember what alcohol did for me from the very beginning? It made me feel like I belonged. I could be anything I wanted to be. I could do anything I wanted to do. I drank at any given opportunity after that, and I was probably about 13 years old. You know, I realize that I'm going to meet Alcoholics Anonymous tonight, and I honor this podium by talking about alcoholism. I used a lot of drugs too, make that a small part of my story. My sponsor encourages me to do that. And, you know, in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, in Bill Wilson's story, he talks about the powerful influence of alcohol and sedation. He wound up on the rocks. That is precisely what happened to me, folks. But, you know, I'm one of these alcoholic females, and I hate to say this from an AA podium, but it's precisely the way that it was for me, and we're supposed to tell the truth up here. That if you pat me on the head, my pants fall, as it happens to me, and I got myself into a lot of trouble when I was growing up. I absolutely love men. I love everything about them. You know about them, I love about them, the downfall of my entire existence, and they remain the same today, I'm sorry to say. And I particularly like sick men, and there's a room full of them here tonight. I can just feel it, you know. That's one thing, girls, I love about Southern California. It's got so many sick men, and I'm just entertained around the clock 24 hours a day. And, you know, you guys, I'm 64 years old, and I have a boyfriend. Bill, believe I have a boyfriend. He lives in New York, and I live here. That's why we get along so well and stuff. So things haven't changed a whole lot for me in that arena, I'll tell you. But I have to tell you guys a funny story. I was in Nashville, Tennessee, maybe about 17 years ago, giving a talk, and one of the fine ladies of Nashville, Tennessee AA walked up to me afterwards, I want you to know, and this woman said to me, she said, "You're disgusting." And she wasn't kidding, you guys. She meant every word of it. And I said, "Lady, from where I come from, being disgusting is a step up, I can assure you." And furthermore, if I wanted you to sponsor me, I'd fly to Nashville and asked you. You know, I hear some women get this podium, and I wonder if they ever drank, you guys. I really do. Do all the drinking and say, shoot through the keyhole with an eyedropper. I was out there big time. I got myself into a lot of trouble. I've been taught to share it being Alcoholics Anonymous. And if I offend anybody in this room tonight, I would never offend anybody in the program that saved my life. And besides that, my book tells me, and this is my favorite part of our book, it says, cling to the thought that in God's hands, your dark past will be the greatest possession that you have. Then it goes on to say, because you can literally avert death and misery for others. So I thought to be very, very true in my sobriety. So if I offend anybody here, and I don't want to hear about it afterwards, but anyway, I got pregnant when I was 16 years old, and I had to get married. In my day, girls, you had to get married. There was no ifs, ands, and buts about that. That's just what we did and stuff. And as it must be, I married an alcoholic. I was 16, he was 17. I couldn't cook, I couldn't clean, I couldn't take care of a baby, nor did I want to take care of a baby. And before we knew it, we had 2 babies to take care of. And I quickly found out what caused all that, and I put a halt to it, I'll guarantee you that. And that caused me a lot of trouble throughout the years. And as it must be, I married an individual that refused to work, that drank on a daily basis, and beat me up on a daily basis. And I had never seen a man hit a woman before in my life, you guys. I'll guarantee you one thing. If my dad would laid one hand on my mom, she'd have knocked him from here to the moon, I got to tell you. And I grew to hate this guy very, very much. And I'm not blaming him for my disease, so please don't get me wrong. It's just part of my story. I need to share it. And some in that family had to get a job. And I didn't finish junior high yet, for God's sakes. And I found a job as a nurse's aide at a hospital there in Lincoln. And the magic was put in my life. I literally fell in love with nursing. And I made a plan to myself. I would love to go to school, and I'd love to become a registered nurse. That's what I'd love to do. You know, they say that alcoholics don't have willpower. And I'm here to tell you tonight from this podium that that is a bunch of crap. I have more willpower than 20 elephants. When I want to do well, I'm going to do well. I don't have 1 ounce of willpower when it comes to my disease. But by God, when I want to do something, I'm going to do it. And I went back, I finished junior high, I finished high school, I went to college full-time for 3 years, and I worked full-time for 3 years. And I'm talking about 18, 20 hours a day, you guys, and that is hard stuff to do. I did not drink, not use any drugs during this period of time. At the age of 27 years old, I became a registered nurse. And if you think I'm proud to stand here tonight and tell you that I got jerked in front of the State Board of Nursing, Nebraska, and they told me, you are a disgrace to your profession, you're a disgrace to nursing, you're a disgrace to medicine, you are no longer working because we just jerked your nursing license. If you think I'm proud of that, you are sadly wrong. You guys, I love my profession, and I really, really mean that. And I would never do anything to jeopardize the people that I take care of, nor the people I work with in ordinary circumstances. And what I had to tell you tonight is a story about how I threw it right down the toilet so I could drink. And that is total insanity. It's also called alcoholism. At the age of 27 years old, I divorced this man. And girls, I got to tell you that a whole new world opened up to me, and it's called men and alcohol. And I went absolutely hog wild is what I did. I was engaged 8 times during since that divorce, and I never married these people. 2 of them died from alcoholism. I know nothing about social drinking. I drank, and with alcoholics, and we do indeed die from this. And at the age of 27 years old, I went to work in surgery at a hospital there in Lincoln, and I had that job for 19 years. I love working in the operating room. I love taking care of those patients. It's a colorful, exciting nursing position. I drank, with medical people mostly. They were colorful, intense people. They worked hard and they played hard. And I need to tell you guys that the incidence of alcoholism amongst my profession is tremendously high. And that'll do a lot for you. You're going to have surgery next week, but it has to be very, very true. And those people are so grateful that I'm sober that they can't see straight. And I'm talking about alcoholics is what I'm talking about. You know, in our book, Alcoholics Anonymous, it says clearly that we're to tell in a general way what our drinking was like. And you'll get the general idea real quick about what my drinking was like. I can tell you guys about my drinking in about 5 seconds, laughing at the truth. Many, many years ago, I was at a little concert in upstate New York called Woodstock. And I'm not talking about that piece of crap they had 10 years ago. I'm talking about the real Woodstock. And there will never be another one, trust me on that. The kids from the 60s threw a party that nobody will ever match, I'm quite sure. And New York got when they're going to have this big event. And they told these people, if you don't get medical coverage, you are not going to have this concert. Started hiring people from Nebraska. They're going to be more responsible. And we were a seedy lot, I can assure you. And I was first drunk sign at this deal and find 9 girls I worked with to join me in. Met about 80 doctors from New York. They were at Woodstock. I never seen so much alcohol in place in my entire life. You could have floated about no problem whatsoever. And the drugs, it was like a candy store. Everybody was sharing drugs there, everybody else. But we had this great big semi-truck on that back lot of Woodstock. That was our hospital park back there. And I don't recall being in that semi the entire week. But I do recall it was like to stand on the stage at night that Richie Havens sang Freedom, and Joe Cocker and Country Joe sang those groups that I love. I come from the roaring 60s, you guys, and I love rock and roll, let me tell you. And things have not changed in my life one little tiny bit. I loved Elvis Presley, and Janis Joplin was my lady, let me tell you. Wouldn't Janis Joplin have been, if I remember Alcoholics Anonymous, you guys? I'd have hung out with Janis, let me tell you. I'd have traded Janis for Clancy any day of the week, to tell the truth. That is a big fat lie. Do not tell him I said that, please. I was just kidding. I wouldn't trade my sponsor for 20 Janis Joplins. But drinking for me at one time was a fun thing, you guys. It'd be a life for me to start saying about that. But I cannot remember the fun and the pain that it caused me. And one more time, I am so grateful, Alcoholics Anonymous, I can't begin to tell you. And you know, the drunk driving charges, the bad checks, all the stuff that we eventually do. My kids were in trouble. I never could marry these guys I was engaged to. They kept dying from alcoholism. I thought, you know, I need to get married to my ex-husband again. That's what I need to do. The kids need their father. Besides, I need to get even with him for all the things he's done to me. And those are are not very good reasons to get married again, I got to tell you. And I'm certainly not proud of that as I stand here tonight. And, if anybody in this room is thinking about getting married to the same person twice, don't do it. You're going to be sorry. The only way I can describe it is like taking a bite out of the same turd twice, if you will. I'm sorry, but that's the way I feel. And he feels the same way I do, as a matter of fact. But I danced that man through 3 of the most miserable years of his life on the face of this earth. And I love to tell you guys this story, but I tell you. And my sponsor always tells me that is not funny, and you should not be telling that from AA podiums. I said, okay, fine, then I won't tell it anymore. And he said, no, go ahead and let those people see how sick you really were, and apparently how sick you really still are. And I'm still sick, and I still think it's funny, and I'm telling the story. When I married him again, I told him, I said, if you ever hit me again, buddy, I will kill you next time you hit me. And he said, I'll never hit you again ever. And I said, you better see that you don't. And he lied is what he did. Came home drunk one night, and I happened to be sober this night for some reason, and I'll never know why, because I usually wasn't. And girls, you know what guys do when they come home drunk. They want to take you to bed and stuff, and I was not buying it. If there's anything I can't stand, it's some drunk man mauling me when I'm sober. And I will say that when the shoe's on their foot, though, it's fine with me. And that guy came home and indicated that to me. And I said, you get your hands off me and leave me alone. I wanted nothing to do with him, period. And he broke my arm is what he did. And I'm here to tell you guys that I was pissed. As a matter of fact, I'm still pissed about it, you know the truth. And I told him, I said, you go to sleep on that couch, and so help me God, when you wake up, you're going to wish you never been born. He said it for hours, you guys, the eyes are pried open. And as it must be, he finally passed out. And I started drinking martinis. And this is a classic example of what alcohol did for me. Alcohol told me what to do. I didn't tell it what to do. And I had about 8-10 martinis, and I was feeling no pain, I can assure you. And I was sitting there watching this guy. And I hate to tell you what this man was doing, but I can't tell you this because I'll tell you what he was doing. He was laying on the couch playing with himself. I thought, you disgusting man, you make me sick to my stomach. And the more I drank, the madder I got. And you guys, I'm a nurse, and I'm very familiar with male anatomy. And I'd be very familiar with male anatomy if I wasn't a nurse. But I thought to myself, what can I do to get even with this guy for all the things he's done to me? And I came with this brilliant idea in my drunken stupor. That's one thing we should never do, folks, is drink and think at the same time. And this was many, many years ago, you guys, when super glue first came out. And super glue was powerful stuff. In our country, in the last 3 or 4 years or so, there's been 2 or 3 instances of super glue stuff. I'm the original super glue person. I wear it like a badge of honor, for God's sakes, but I got that super glue, and I read the directions on that super glue, and like I said, I was drunk and I wasn't seeing very clearly, and what I thought those directions said were, if this hits human skin, you better get it off in 15 hours. Now, why would it say something stupid like that? What it said was, in fact, if this hits human skin, you better get it off in 5 minutes is what it said. And I went to this guy, I get so excited when I tell this story, I could just do it all over again. This guy... And I poured super glue all over this guy's groin, and I mean everywhere. There's not one place that I have super glue, and I laughed about it, and I went to bed. And I woke up in the morning to screams of horror like you cannot even believe. And, I did not mean to hurt this guy as bad as I did, and I swear to God that's true. But I'll tell you what happened to my ex-husband. This guy never had the advantage of being circumcised when he was born, and now he clearly was, I can assure you. It was just terrible, Well, he shouldn't have broke my arm, damn it. But anyway, we had a telephone by our bed there in our bedroom, and he called the police, and the cops were out in front of our home, and there's sirens going. There was an ambulance out there. The neighbors were gawking out of their windows. And, one thing you guys got to keep in mind here, they do not see things like this happen in Lincoln, Nebraska. In California, it would not surprise me one bit, but it's certainly not there. And the cops were laughing, which maybe the whole thing was funny. And they said, lady, are you crazy or what? Why would you do something like this? And I stood there and I said, what makes you think that I did it anyway? I was only standing there with glue on my hands, for God's sake. And they said, you're under arrest for assault and battery. And I said, you cannot arrest wives in Nebraska for assault and battery against their husbands. I knew better than that. And 2 days later when I got out of jail, I guess I didn't know better than that. And they took that man to the very hospital that I worked at in surgery, and he had to have surgery. And one more time, the whole staff saw what Karen did, and they took me to jail, I might add. And it turned out to be a terrible, terrible thing. Those doctors there in Lincoln couldn't get that glue off, and they had to get 2 surgeons down from Creighton University Medical School in Omaha, Nebraska to get that glue off. And there's a paper about that at Creighton. Even this room's going to go to medical school, you can read about it if you want to. I'd always wanted a paper written about me, but not like this, I got to tell you. And I was sitting in that jail thinking to myself, I am getting out of this marriage. When this guy comes home from the hospital, he's going to glue something to mine shut. And he would have, too, I got to tell you. I'm sorry, but he would have. For those of you who don't know this, that happened to a lady in Kentucky about 7 years ago. It was on the national news, and I was on the 10 freeway. I had a wreck when I heard. I thought, my God, better her than me, I got to tell you. But, we have an immense step in this program, and my sponsor made me get on an airplane and fly to Sacramento, California, and make amends to my ex-husband where he currently lives. And I tried to tell my sponsor, I'm not sorry that I did that. Therefore, I have to make the amends. He said, I don't give a damn whether you're sorry or not. Get in that airplane, get there, and do what I'm asking you to do, and maybe one of these days you will be sorry. And I'm telling anybody in this room tonight, when that guy sees me, he kind of backs up, let me tell you. But we're able to sit down and talk and stuff. And I made my amends to him. And I will tell you guys, I walked away from that man. I was free what I had done to him. I was free of being married to him twice. And I will tell you, for the first time in my sobriety, the promise of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous came true in my life. And you know what else found out about that? Motives mean nothing here, folks. My motives suck big time on that one. I still got the promises, so go figure. It's action that counts right here, not motives and stuff. But anyway, I divorced this guy one more time, and I have to tell you guys a funny story. I almost forgot to tell this. I went to Lompoc Prison to speak about maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and as we all know, it's a men's federal penitentiary here in Central Coast, California, and they have this monthly speakers meeting, so they invite folks from LA to drive up to Santa Maria and share. So I drove up there and at the Lompoc property, and you have to push the guard tower button. They say, who are you and what is your business? And I told them, they said, well, Mrs. Garrison, do you have any weapons on you, any guns, knives, explosives? And I said, no. And they said, well, Mrs. Garrison, do you have any super glue on you? For the first time in my life, I was totally speechless, Then the guard tower laughed, and the prisoners put them up to it. And I said, well, no, as a matter of fact, I don't. And they said, well, then you can come on in. And the prisoners took me to their meeting. They had this big blackboard with this great big circle with a red slash that said, no super glue in here tonight. You never know what's going to happen, Alcoholics Anonymous. But anyway, I got divorced this guy, and I got involved with the most bizarre man I've ever met before in my life. This guy told me he was in the mafia. Now, I don't think anybody in Lincoln, Nebraska is in the mafia, for God's sakes. And I was lying to him, and he was lying to me. It was your typical alcoholic nightmare is what it was. I was drinking on a daily basis. I was taking Valium for severe tremors I was starting to have. It was beginning to be no more fun, I got to tell you guys. I'm a nurse, and I've studied alcoholism. I knew all about it before I became one. And it shows me one more time what our book says, that self-knowledge means absolutely nothing with this disease. It's action that counts. Nowhere in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous do we have a chapter called Into Thinking. We've done this called Into Action. And that's the only reason I'm standing here 27 years sober. And the day came to me to the hospital, told me, they said, Karen, you know what? You are absolutely pathetic. You are the finest nurse on this staff, and you know that you are. You have won awards for nursing ability. What in the hell is the matter? You have a drinking problem. We're tired of you in the paper. Drunk driving charges, bad checks, gluing husbands, all the stuff that you're doing. Everything you do in Nebraska is in the paper, I'm sorry to say. And they knew my game, let me tell you. They said, you're either going to a treatment center or you're not working here anymore. We're not protecting you anymore, little girl. You better pay attention to this. We're not playing games with you. And I stood there and I said, you and what army's going to make me go to a treatment center? And I walked out of a job that I loved more than anything in the whole world. And I drank and I drank and I died 1,000 times over. I went to work in a nursing home there in Lincoln. I'm ready to share with you guys something I am not proud to discuss from any AA podium. It took me years into my sobriety before I would ever mention this. I found myself still in drugs in that nursing home. And it wasn't because I liked drugs that much. It has nothing to do with anything. I was physically addicted to alcohol by now. I had to have this stuff. I couldn't go more than 3 hours without drinking. I couldn't drink at work, so I started stealing drugs. It's just that damn simple. And I was stealing morphine and Demerol and cocaine and Valium, and I get my hands on. And if you think I'm proud of that, you are sadly wrong. And the day came in, the people that ran that place came up to me and they said, Karen, what is wrong with you? You are just weird is what you are. Now, you take good care of the patients. You're a great nurse, but you're just strange. And I remember thinking to myself, you'd be strange, too, if you had 200 milligrams of Demerol on board. You'd be strange, too. And I threw my keys at them, and I walked out the door before they fired me. And I went to work at Bryan Memorial Hospital there in Lincoln. And you guys, it's a fine, fine facility. And I was drunk on that everybody, that nursing position. And I'm not talking about falling down drunk. I was just maintaining some level of alcohol in my bloodstream that I would not shake and have those violent tremors. That is clearly desperation drinking. Our book describes it vividly, and I was in hot water up to my yin-yang, let me tell you. I had to drink, I had to take drugs, I had no more choice than anybody. And I'll tell you guys right up front here tonight, the very thought that I might drink again makes the hair on my neck stand straight up. And that's why I'm an active member of Alcoholics Anonymous and stuff. But The day came and I got caught red-handed stealing some morphine in the hospital, and this has got to be without a doubt the most humiliating day of my entire life. When they said, you give us your narcotic keys and you get out of this hospital, don't you ever walk back in here again. We're reporting this to the State Board of Nursing in Nebraska. That's exactly what they did. That's exactly what they should have done. My other two jobs should have done it too, as a matter of fact. And long story short here tonight, I lost my nursing license. And to make a long story short and term here tonight, I went up on the streets of Nebraska is what happened to me. And you guys, I spent 2 years on the streets. And I have traveled the Midwest. I prostituted myself. And I'll guarantee you one thing, that I have seen and done things that no woman should ever see her doing. I'm still so sick in the head sometimes, I think to myself, I wouldn't mind seeing some of them again, you know. And my sponsor assures me I am still a very ill member of Alcoholics Anonymous, but I've been in nut houses, I've been in detoxes, I've been in jails, I've been in institutions. I cannot think of a thing on the streets as a practicing female alcoholic. Things happen to me I would not repeat from this podium tonight, but I'm sure that you had the general idea. And 2 years rolled by for me, and there I was back there in Lincoln, standing on Skid Row, sucking on a bottle of Mad Dog. And I certainly had better things intended for myself than to be doing that, let me tell you. I will never forget that last day of my drinking as long as I live, although I really can't tell you that much about it. I apparently was so physically sick, I just passed out in the streets, and I woke up in an intensive care ward, the very hospital I was born at, the very hospital that I worked at for 19 years, and I will tell you guys clearly that the alcoholic hell for me started the day I got sober. I laid in that intensive care ward, I had tubes come out of my belly, they were draining fluid off my liver, I had IVs going, and I found myself in withdrawal that was so bad I cannot begin to tell you guys. And I laid in that intensive care ward, and I shook, and I shook, and I died for 30 solid days, and I'd scream at those nurses, demand they give me drugs for this withdrawal. They would not give me drug one. There's nothing wrong with your heart. It's not throwing any irregularities, and you're not getting one drug from us, so quit asking us for them. Let me tell you what these people did for me, and I will be forever grateful as long as I'm sober, not Alcoholics Anonymous. They got 10 members of AA to come and sit with me, and these people never left me day or night for 30 solid days, and I really fell in love with these people, and I'll tell you why. Everybody in my life was gone, you guys. Family, friends, it was over. I was alone. I was dying, and I will tell you, I was so grateful to have people back in my life again. They say things like, Karen, just keep breathing. So I do is breathe, and I'd say, when is this withdrawal going to stop? And they said, when it's time, that's not going to stop. And that wasn't good enough for me. I wanted a date is what I wanted. And they were absolutely accurate about that. When it's time, it's time. At 30 days of sobriety, I walked in that official treatment from that hospital. I'm a product of a treatment center. I had no opinion on one or the other, but apparently I went to a fine one because all they talked about was Alcoholics Anonymous. And, you know, where I went through treatment, a lot of people got kicked out of treatment for fraternizing. I didn't. Nobody wants to fraternize with an orange person, I can assure you. And they used to bring the patients of the hospital, and they'd say, look at her, see what's going to happen if you keep on drinking, look at her. I thought, how dare you bring people in my room and say stuff like that? But you guys, you know what, in retrospect tonight, I'm really glad they did that. I get to think about that before I pick up any drink, but I was on a quick study in the inpatient therapy program due to my very rotten behavior. I was in there for 7 long months. That's a long time being in the inpatient therapy program. I completed that program, went to an outpatient program, went to an evening care program, I went to an aftercare program, and I found myself a very, very active member of Alcoholics Anonymous in Lincoln, Nebraska. And I wasn't doing one thing. We teach people in AA to do it. And I rapidly went through 19 sponsors in that town. My butt was in the chairs, but I was picking and choosing what I want to do in Alcoholics Anonymous. It is a dangerous position for any newcomer to be in. I am very lucky I survived that, let me tell you. I need a sponsor. My book tells me the alcoholic's problem centers in his mind. And I'll tell you, for myself, I know that's very, very true and stuff. But anyway, you know, you can pull your crap around here just for so long, and these old-timers are going to start nailing you, one right after the other. God love me old-timers and Alcoholics Anonymous. They literally saved my life. And this old guy with 29 years of sobriety grabbed me up an AA day and said, come outside, I want to talk to you. He said, you stay away from the new people. How dare you tell the new people they don't read the book and they don't need a sponsor? He said, you're like a typhoid Mary in AA. Everybody dies around you, and you're able to stay sober somehow. And he went on to tell me, there's going to be a man from California speaking in Kearney, Nebraska this weekend. His name is Clancy. Hear this man speaker and ask this man if he will sponsor you. He is a master at dealing with jerks like you. And I heard all about Clancy, and I wanted nothing to do with him, period, because I knew I was going to be in bad, bad trouble. And I got to tell you guys that my fears have been justified 8,000 times over. But I told this old timer, I said, who the hell do you think you are that you're going to tell me he's going to be my sponsor in Alcoholics Anonymous? He said, if you don't get in that car and go with us Saturday, I'm going to tell everybody in Lincoln how you stole money from an AA meeting. And I found myself in Kearney, Nebraska. And I will tell you, and I paid that money back too, by the way, I did. And I will tell you guys from the podium in Kearney, Nebraska, that man literally put the magic of Alcoholics Anonymous in my life. And as a result of that talk, I was identifying with another alcoholic. I found myself asking that man to be my sponsor. He eventually agreed to do that. He shot off orders at me about knocked me over sideways. And you know, I went back back to Lincoln, I became very, very active in AA in the right way. Probably the third day I had Clancy. He told me, he said, Karen, I want you to get the State Board of Nursing Nebraska and tell those people you've been sober for a year and a half in AA, you'd like the opportunity to get your nursing license back. And you guys, I knew it wasn't going to work, but I did it anyway. And that's without a doubt the most important thing I can say in this room tonight. I did what my sponsor asked me to do, whether I thought would work or not. And I asked my license back. And they looked at me like I had just grown horns on the top of my head, I can assure you. And they said, how many links are you willing to go to? And I had to do a lot, you guys. I had to take crap off people for 2 years that I wouldn't hire to mow my own lawn, if you know the truth. And I had to keep my mouth shut in the process, too. And one of the happiest days of my life occurred 23 years ago when one more time I was stricken in front of the State Board of Nursing Nebraska, and what they told me brought me to my knees for the first time in Alcoholics Anonymous. They said, welcome home, you're fully reinstated as a registered nurse. And that is a gift from AA. I don't deserve it, but by God, I intend to take it. I came here to visit a couple of times. I fell in love with Southern California AA. If you're new in this room tonight, I want you to know that you are in the mecca of Alcoholics Anonymous in the whole world. This is the best place to be and be sober. And I know that's very, very true because I get the honor of speaking all the world. And I welcome you, and I hope that you stay. And I told that old man on the phone one day, move to LA, live on that crazy Venice beach, you know, belong to the Pacific. I want to work at UCLA in the operating room, be on 2 of their transplant teams, their heart and liver transplant teams. I want this and I want that. And every single thing have come true for me. And those are all gifts from AA. I deserve absolutely none. By God, I'm taking all of them. You know, people say to me all the time, why do you keep doing it, Karen? Why do you keep doing it? And now I know of no greater thing to say to them than where our 12th tradition says long form. So that this to the end, that my great blessings may never spoil me, I may forever live in thankful contemplation of him who presides over us all. And I'm going to say one more thing, and I'm going to shut my mouth here right on time. It has been one hell of a walk from Skid Row, Nebraska, to where I stand in Los Angeles, in Culver City, California tonight. And I think that but for the grace of God and Alcoholics Anonymous, that I would have missed it all. Thank you for having me, and thank you for my life.